Bonjour tout le monde, c'est moi Charlotte et voici la vidéo pour la semaine 3, la troisième semaine de notre cours de français pour les débutants. Donc aujourd'hui, je veux parler du verbe vouloir. V-O-U-L-O-I-R. Vouloir. C'est un verbe irrégulier. It's a very irregular verb. So when I say irregular verb, what do I mean by that? I mean that when we conjugate the verb, it doesn't follow the pattern that you might expect, the pattern that regular verbs follow. So there are generally three main types of verbs. In fact, we looked at them last week. There are ER verbs, verbs that end in ER, verbs that end in RE, and then verbs that end in IR. So this is generally the three main types. So regular verbs in any of those categories will follow a pattern when you conjugate them. There's an exception with this kind of verb, an irregular one. So when you conjugate it, what does that mean, conjugate? So when you conjugate a verb, it means you change the way it's spelled, you change the written form, and that actually often affects the way that you pronounce the word, okay? So and that change depends on the person you're talking about or the person you're addressing. So for example, if I wanted to say, first of all I need to explain what this verb means. Vouloir, en anglais, to want. To want. So that verb on its own in English means to want. If you're going to conjugate it in the I form, en français, je. So, like in English, in French, lots of sentences have a similar structure to the English. So, for example, you start off with a pronoun, personal pronoun, je, which means I, and then you follow it with a verb. For example, I want a coffee, I want to go, I want to sleep, I want a hug. So if you want to make that sentence, you can't use the whole verb vouloir. You need to conjugate it. So you've got the je, because you're talking about I, and then you need to know the form that goes with je. So in the present tense, that would be je veux. Je veux. Je veux. I want. Je veux dormir. I want to sleep. Je veux manger. I want to eat. Je veux un stylo. I want a pen, etc. So let's have a look at the conjugation in the other forms. Right, so we've got the to form. Tu veux. Okay. Oh, by the way, this is actually on page 2. So the conjugation you'll be looking at is on page 2 of the week 3 handout. So those who come along to my class, this is what you'll be looking at, okay? Voilà, c'est ça. Oh, ça c'est anglais et là c'est en français. Et là, il y a des exemples. So we've got some sentences here. I'll look at one or two of those in a moment. Je veux, tu veux. Third person, il, elle. That's he or she. Il, elle. Sometimes you'll see the third person, 1, 2, 3, that's the third down, singular, because all of these ones are singular, talking about I, well there's only one of me, isn't there? Tu, that's one of you, someone that you know. He or she, well there's only one of those. But you also get this one sometimes, on. So, sometimes this can mean we, but it's functions in the singular. Sometimes it can be impersonal. Par exemple, en France, on parle français. In France, you speak French. People speak French in France. On parle. One speaks French. So pay attention to that. It's conjugated in the same way as he or she, il or elle. Remember, il or elle can also sometimes mean it. Why is that? That's because objects, let me move my chair, it's creaking. Objects in French, remember, they have a gender. So le stylo, this is a masculine noun. So if we're talking about it, the pen, it is black. Il est noir. The pen. It is black. La brosse. Okay, the brush. La brosse. So it's a feminine noun. Elle est rose. So the brush is pink. She is pink. So let's get back to conjugating this verb to want. So I want, je veux. You want, tu veux. He, she, one wants. So that's written like this. V-E-U-T. So, mais écoutez bien. Je veux, tu veux, il, elle, on veut. 1, 2, 3. They all sound the same, those first three. So despite these having an X at the end and this having a T, they're actually pronounced in the same way. So that might help you remember that conjugation. Let's go and look at the plural conjugations, okay? So that means we, okay, because when we're talking about we or us, there's more than one of us. Vous, yeah, because that can mean all of you, plural. Remember, it can also mean you, singular, vous, in like the formal or the polite way of address. And then the last one, so we have nous, us, or we, vous, you guys, right? Ils, elles. Il and elle means they, mostly men or a group of guys. Elle means like a group of ladies or, you know, females. It can also mean those things that are masculine. Les stylos, ils sont noirs. They are the masculine pens. Les brosses, brushes, elles sont roses. They are. So keep that in mind. So then something happens. This starts to look quite different, this verb. It suddenly becomes nous voulons. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? What's happening here? Ça change. So instead of it having an E and a U, veux, we go back to the OU, the OU, which actually makes more sense because the verb is vouloir. Everything before the end of the verb, voul, that's actually the stem there, voul, because the IR is the ending, but it's very irregular, so it doesn't, you know, you don't just chop off the ending and add, or chop off this bit and add certain endings, you actually have to change the whole verb, so it's very irregular. Nous voulons, we want. Now this one you probably remember, think of the song, Voulez-vous, do you want? So in that song, Voulez-vous, let me write that down to show you. That's in the question form. Voulez-vous. Voulez-vous. We've got the verb here, then we've got the vous afterwards. We've got a hyphen and a question mark. Do you want? Do you want it? Here we've got the pronoun, personal pronoun first, and then we've got voulez. So I started saying earlier that the structure in this, these normal sentences, you want, very similar to the English. We've got the personal pronoun first, then we've got the verb second, and the verb has been conjugated to agree with the subject of the verb, so the person that you're talking to or about. Okay, we've got voulons and voulez. So you might have guessed that voulez is the vous form because it's got EZ at the end. Last week we looked at the vous form of lots of verbs. Most of them had EZ on them at the end in the vous form. Now we're going to look at the il, elle form. Okay, so this changes back to the sound. Veulent. So that's a little L there. Ils veulent manger. Les garçons veulent manger. The boys want to eat. les filles veulent boire quelque chose. The girls want to drink something. Elles veulent boire quelque chose. They want to drink something. Elles, les filles. Ils, les garçons, par exemple. So here we've got basically what we would call a verb table. It's the present tense. We're talking about what is happening now or what is happening in general. For example, je veux manger quelque chose. I want to eat something. Talking about something now. Je veux une nouvelle voiture. I want a new car. That could be something that's true at the moment, or it could just be something that's ongoing. So it's a useful verb. Let's have a look at some of the examples I've got here. Trying to keep an eye on the time. We're at nearly 11 minutes. So I'm just going to use examples from the sheet. So the first one's actually a question. Voulez-vous quelque chose à manger? Ici, numéro A, or letter A. Voulez-vous quelque chose à manger? Do you want something to eat? So there we've got an inversion. An inversion meaning that instead of having vous first and then the verb, voulez, we've got voulez before vous. Like this. Okay, that's an indicator someone's asking you a question. Voulez-vous quelque chose à manger? So you could answer that with a full sentence. Oui, je veux quelque chose à manger. Oui, je veux. Yes, I want. Quelque chose à manger, something to eat. Okay, this is veux, so this is exercise E. Voilà, là. Nous voulons écouter un peu de musique. Nous voulons écouter un peu de musique. We want to listen to a bit of music. Un peu de, a little of, a bit of something. So we actually saw that un peu de, well, we didn't see it exactly, but at the beginning of, more or less near the beginning of this week's lesson, we looked at this. So this has some useful vocab for ordering drinks at a bar. So, for example, at the beginning I started off with the phrase je veux, but then I gave you an alternative phrase which more or less means the same thing, but it's a bit more polite, if you like. So I'll je change le stylo, change la couleur. I'll change that to rouge. We're going to look at colours next week, so you know, retain a few if you can. We've already got bleu, noir somewhere, and rouge. So, je voudrais. Let me make sure you can see that. Je voudrais. Je voudrais. Now, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Pourquoi? That sounds familiar because it's asking, well, it's telling someone I would like, as opposed to I want this. I would like that. Right, so you're not assuming you can get it, but you're asking politely. Okay, you really would like it, but you're just asking politely. So, for example, par exemple, je voudrais un verre. Just saying if I've got un verre. I do have un verre, but it's dirty. So, je voudrais un verre de vin rouge, s'il vous plaît. I would like a glass, un verre de, a glass of vin rouge. Vin rouge. Yeah, wine, red wine. S'il vous plaît. Je voudrais. So when you're making a request, you're at a bar. I mean, you don't even have to say I would like. You can just say un verre de vin rouge, s'il vous plaît. Glass of wine, please. Okay, just like at home, you don't have to say I would like this, I would like that, I want this, I want that. But you know, it's useful to practice the whole phrase. You can shorten it accordingly then. So, un verre de, a glass of. We also saw une bouteille, voilà ici, une bouteille de, a bottle of. Par exemple, je veux une bouteille de bière. I want a bottle of beer. Une bouteille. So we have un verre. I've got to cut on my finger. Un verre. Une bouteille. The difference here being that une before bouteille shows you that bouteille is a feminine word, oui. And un verre shows you that the word verre, glass, is masculine. Right, bravo. Okay, so we've got another feminine one here. Une carafe de vin, une carafe d'eau, par exemple. So the point was a glass of, a jug or a pitcher of, a bottle of, un peu de vin, un peu de bière, un peu de chocolat, un peu de sandwich, un peu de fruits, whatever you want, okay? So we've just seen a preposition there, the preposition de. Where can I write it? I'll just write it ici, de, can translate as of, okay? So we'll come back to that, that's a very useful one. So let's have a look back at page 2. Quelques exemples, some examples. So, ok. Les enfants veulent un chien. Okay, this is often the case with kids. Les enfants veulent un chien. Ou les enfants veulent un chat. Un chien ou un chat. Les enfants. We're talking here about the children. Les enfants. So, regarde ici. J'ai. Okay, yeah, letter G. Les enfants. So, normally if you're saying V for something plural, it will be written les, which is normally pronounced les. But in front of a noun that starts with a vowel, like enfant, you pronounce the S. So, les enfants. Les enfants veulent un chien. The kids, or the children, want a dog. So, okay. Oh, I've already written on that page. Et là aussi. Et voilà, c'est vide. That one's clear. So what I'm going to do now is just show you some examples of the negative. So negative examples. So ah oui. Okay, so here's a sentence. Je veux. I'm going to do it in the je form because that's probably what you'll use most. I'll also do the vous and the nous forms. Okay, so 3 examples. Je veux une voiture rouge. Est-ce que c'est ça? Oui. Rouge, oui. I want a red car. Okay, that adjective that describes the car comes generally after the adjective, unlike in English. So we're going to make that negative. Qu'est-ce que nous faisons? What do we do to make it negative? Yeah, so you'll start to see this. In fact, you'll see it probably every week. We put a ne and a pas around the verb. Okay, je ne veux pas une voiture rouge. Je ne veux pas une voiture rouge. Rouge. I don't want a red car. I want, je veux. I don't want, je ne veux pas. Oui, je veux. Non, je ne veux pas. So you need to get used to putting the ne and the pas around the verb. So, where does the ne and the pas go? It goes around the conjugated verb. Okay? So let's give you an example in the nous form. An example of a sentence in the nous form. Okay, here's one sort of similar to what's on the sheet. Nous voulons regarder le match. I'm just going to stop it there, slightly shorter than the example on your sheet. Nous voulons regarder le match. So here, what's the difference with this first sentence? We've got a different subject. We've got nous, which is like we. We want, so nous voulons. So we've got the ou sound in the verb rather than the e. ONS, you'll see that at the end of nous form verbs, so it's really handy. Nous voulons. So the conjugated verb, which is this one here, which is that one there in that sentence, is followed by an infinitive verb. So that's the verb regarder or regarder, to look or to watch at, to look at or to watch. Nous voulons regarder le match. We want to watch the match. So this verb can be followed by, when it's conjugated, it can be followed by nouns, maybe a singular noun, but it can also be followed by infinitive verbs, the whole form, unconjugated, right? You could put nous voulons aller, nous voulons dormir, nous voulons manger, nous voulons, etc. Okay, any verb more or less. Nous voulons écouter la musique, un peu de musique. Let's make this negative. Where do I put the ne and the pas? Ici et ici. Oui. Nous ne voulons pas regarder le match. So you put it around the verb that's changed from the infinitive form, from its whole form, which is vouloir. You don't put it before the infinitive verb here. Ne regardez pas. No, in this instance, it doesn't make sense. You need it around the first verb in the sentence, the I want bit. I do not want. So I said I'd do a vous form. Let's have a look. Okay. I'll just move this up a little bit and then we'll finish. Vous voulez. I'm going to put a verb after this, and actually it's going to be a question. Vous voulez danser avec moi? Vous voulez danser avec moi? Vous voulez danser? Do you want to dance avec moi, with me? So that question, you don't have to ask a question by putting the verb before the vous. Voulez-vous danser avec moi is still the same question. Do you want to dance with me? This is just making a sentence into a question. So, you want to dance with me? Make your intonation go up at the end. You want to dance with me? Okay, so let's make that negative. You don't want to dance with me? Where do we put the ne and the pas? There's your verb. Yeah, so you put it there and there. Vous ne voulez pas danser avec moi? Right, imagine someone getting angry. You don't want to dance with me? Vous ne voulez pas danser avec moi? Okay, so there's some examples of the verb vouloir, really useful, and we'll see that quite often. So for homework I'm going to send you something now which is basically a listening exercise with some questions in the vous form, and I'd just like you to answer them in the positive. So I'll send that over today, and in the meantime, if you have any questions, send them my way. Merci beaucoup et à bientôt. Au revoir. See ya.